Okay, so today I'm going to be doing a if you liked this style recommendation video. So what I'll be doing is if you liked a particular popular young adult book and you're interested in delving into some adult fiction, I'll have kind of a counterpart that you could try out. Again, anytime I do a concept on this channel that's kind of like a booktube traditional, a booktube normal video that isn't thought up particularly by me, I try to leave a few links to other creators that have done similar videos, so that'll be linked in the description as well if you want to check some more people out. I have 5 recommendations for you. Most of these I tried to keep really, really similar, and of course, if you're into adult books wanting to dip your toes into some YA stuff, obviously any list like this can be used in either direction, so you can check out some YA books too if you're interested. But before we get into the recommendations, an ad from Skillshare. So Skillshare is an online community with thousands of inspiring classes. You can explore new skills, deepen existing passions, and get lost in creativity. Skillshare actually has loads of art classes. The one that I'm the most interested in is Start Drawing, Techniques for Pencil Portraits by Gabrielle Brickley. When I was a kid, I used to love to draw. And I did it all the time. I thought that it was a really relaxing and restful way to reset, but I have not kept up with that skill and have lost it, obviously. So Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes. It's curated specifically for learning, meaning that there are no ads, and they're always launching new premium classes, and it's less than $10 a month with an annual subscription. You could continue on your merry way without Skillshare and be as skilled as me, or you could work on learning more and improving your skill with Skillshare. The first 1,000 people to use the link in my description will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium membership, so be sure to click that link and check them out. So for the YA pick, if you liked the Starless Sea, I think you could like Piranesi. So the Starless Sea is about a boy, well, it follows a boy named Zachary, who is, I believe, in a house or in a place that's far beneath the earth. And it's just filled with this labyrinth of rooms. I'm pretty sure the rooms change as well. But anyway, it's a series of rooms that are filled with individual stories. And the majority of the book is Zachary exploring this labyrinth of rooms and learning the different stories. And at the heart, it has fantasy elements to it, but at the heart, it is a very slow unraveling mystery. And in general, I feel like the general sense of this story is one of awe. It's one of wonder. It's one of discovering the mysteries of this place that he's in, of discovering the stories of each room. And I had some mixed feelings about this, but in general, there were some of these stories that hit me so hard. There was one in particular about keys that just like really stuck with me. The prose in the Starless Sea is beautiful. The main character wasn't someone that I attached to, but the world that he explored was awe-inspiring in my opinion, which is almost exactly how I describe Piranesi. Piranesi, unlike the Starless Sea, has just a delightful, wonderful main character, but in the general setup of the world is so similar. Piranesi is stuck in this house that has a labyrinth of rooms, and he's discovering them and exploring them, and each room doesn't necessarily have its own story, but there are so many stories within these rooms, if that makes sense. There are so many stories within what he has found and what he's found to treasure within the different rooms. It's different. It's very different, but there are definitely parallels. Piranesi doesn't know why he's here or how he got here, and at the core of this story is also a very slowly unraveling mystery. This world as well, I think, is one that just inspires so much awe. Piranesi himself is so enamored and in love with and in awe of the house that he lives in, and that general feeling of the wonder of this labyrinth of rooms that we're exploring. It just translates so well through the page. And again, Susanna Clarke's writing, her prose is gorgeous. They're very different stories, obviously. I think any list like this will have different stories, but I do think that they both have very similar feels to them. They have similar setups, and what they focus on, which is the world and the awe and the mystery of it all, they both do so well at that. Next, I'm going to do romance. I actually just finished Instructions for Dancing by Nicola Yoon, and In a Holidays is one that I read last year. This is a Christmassy story, so I guess it's not the right season, but the season's coming, so hey. Anyway, Instructions for Dancing was just so cute. This was about a girl in high school, her senior year of high school. She's 18, and so does that make it YA, or does that make it that like weird not YA, not adult? I don't care. She's 18 years old. Her parents just got a divorce, and they got a divorce because she just found out that her dad had been cheating. And so now her whole perception of love has been shattered, and it's really shifted the way she views relationships and the world as a whole. She used to be a romance reader fanatic. She knows all the tropes. She knows all the things to look out for. And you can see that in the way she narrates her own story. She really filters it through her knowledge and love of this genre of books, which I just thought was so cute. Anyway, she now suddenly starts seeing visions of people. Whenever they kiss, she can see their love life, their beginning, their really big moments, and then their end. And as she's doing this, she's now getting more and more cynical because she's seeing all of these tragic endings to what seem like solid relationships, and she just is giving up on love and not wanting to try it. Enter X, the love interest of the story. She's trying to follow fate to figure out why these visions have landed on her lap and try to like resolve them. She has to follow the fate of things, which leads her to a dance studio and a dance competition, and it's so cute. And yeah, that's the basic setup. That's where I'll leave that. In a Holidays, the reason I've paired it up with In a Holidays is because this one also has kind of a really, really cute setup, but also this really weird, not natural thing that's happening to our main character. And it's a Groundhog Day thing. So our main character, she and this other family that she's grown up with, they every year have always come together to this cabin that the two families own together and done family vacations together. And she has had this long love for one of the guys in this other family. She's had a crush on him forever, but it's always been platonic and she's never made a move. Now it's going to be their last Christmas at this cabin before the families sell it, and she gets stuck in this time loop where she's Groundhog Daying it, and she just keeps repeating the same thing over and over again, and she is trying to figure out what fate is trying to do to her, what fate is trying to make happen with this. So she's trying to figure out the formula, follow fate, and it's adorable. Two really different stories. Again, do I need to say that every time? But they're both adorable and they have really similar kind of like, I don't know, characters that are about to miss things in life and fate does something impossible to help them out. Next we have the Wayward Children series versus the Bone Shard Daughter. This one's really different, but I have my reasons. So I really wanted to put the Wayward Children series on this list because it's a series that I have enjoyed so much. I love hidden doorway fantasy stories, Narnia-esque, and this series I think does it so well. I think that Susan McGuire, Shannon McGuire does an amazing job at creating different worlds that are so fun to explore. So the setup is it's this orphanage of children that have all found hidden doorways and spent a period of time in another world and fallen in love with that other world, and that world belongs to them. It's where they want to be, but for whatever reason they were forced to leave the world, or they accidentally somehow they left the world, and now they're back in the real world and they don't know how to cope. So they've come to this, why did I say orphanage? So they've come to this home for children that say they're in another world. They were in another world and their parents are concerned about them, but it's reality. So this is where they go to cope and be taken care of and try to find their doorways again. Anyway, I'm holding up book 2 because this is a companion series, and the author herself says it does not have to be read in publication order. So you can start wherever you want to. And books 1 and 2 spoil each other. So whether you start on book 1 or start on book 2, you've spoiled the other book. And personally, I think book 2 is way better than book 1, so I recommend starting here. Anyway, these are companion little tiny short books just about exploring different worlds. And I think she does such a great job of making them so unique and fun to explore. Bone Shard Daughter is not that. It's not portal fantasy. It's not doorway fantasy. There's nothing. No. Why did I pick it? Because I think that there's a certain kind of magic in in finding different, in accessing different doorways of the same world. I think that that same amount of mystery and excitement and fun, again? I think that that same amount of mystery and excitement and finding yourself is in this story. So The Bone Shard Daughter is a book that I've only recently finished, and I loved it. So there are 5 perspectives that we follow, but there are 2 main perspectives that we follow. We have Lynn, who is the Emperor's daughter. She is trying to become the next emperor, but she's has a sickness that has made her lose her memories, and she needs to get them back before her father will train her in the Bone Shard magic. That is what she needs to be trained in order to be the emperor. I have a dedicated review for this, actually, and Piranesi. I've coupled them together in a review. I recommend checking it out because the magic in this is so cool, and there's so many awesome things about this book. I love it so much. But anyway, one of the main plot lines for Lynn is that she is, there's a lot of mysteries in the palace that she lives in, and her father has the keys to the many, many rooms, and she's trying to obtain the keys from him in order to explore another room. So it's not portal, it's not doorway, but there's some parallels there. Anyway, she sometimes earns the key according to his rules, and sometimes she earns the key in other ways. And she's exploring the mysteries of the palace and learning a lot of hidden things about this world. It's not the same thing, but I think that there's enough parallels that I feel like if you liked this, you'd probably like this. Okay, next we have, if you liked the Remnant Chronicles, you may like the Sword of Kaigen. So the Remnant Chronicles is a young adult, it was popular back in the day, but it's been published for years and years and years and probably off everybody's radar now, but it was one that I enjoyed so much. A princess who's probably going to be married off to somebody that she doesn't want to be married off to because she doesn't know him, so she runs away, runaway princess trope, but it's lovely. The magic in this is really cool, very slowly unraveled and explored, and very interesting in my opinion. It's kind of a slow start but builds up into something really great in my opinion. And I think the thing that stands out to me the most about this is the fact that our protagonist of the story is not your typical protagonist, and she's not like other girls, in that she is so loyal and dedicated to her country and her kingdom. And while she does run away, there's so much that she does to get back to them and to protect them and to serve them, and the amount of sacrifices that she makes for her kingdom because she's so loyal to them. And I really think that she's a very inspiring lead and someone who has a great arc. You know, who she is in book 1 is not who she is in book 3. And I find her as a character really satisfying, and I love reading about someone who is whose situation isn't great, but at the end of the day, she wants to protect her people. She wants the position she has. So Sword of Kaigen is, again, very different. So this one is about a woman, I mean, it's dual perspective, but the main perspective is Misaki, who grew up learning to fight with swords, learning and training to be just a truly incredible fighter and defender. And she ends up getting married off to someone who the relationship isn't great, isn't good. And she is very determined to do her best to serve her empire. And so the Kaigenese empire has the coolest magic system based around water and ice, and it's awesome and I really like it. But anyway, she has kind of accepted her role as submissive wife and mother, and she's put away her swords and she's trying to do her best to do what she believes is right for her empire, for her kingdom. And then this looming threat appears for their empire, and Misaki has a lot of growth and a lot of change and learns from what's happening around her, and there's a big difference from her at the beginning of the book to the end of the book. It's a standalone, and while, again, it's very different, I think that Misaki is such an inspiring protagonist. She's such a incredibly humble lead who just wants to, she will sacrifice so much if it means the good of her people. And from the submissive role to a more active role that she ends up taking in the story. In every role she plays, I really feel like I admire how much of herself that she gives for her people. And I love seeing where she lands. I think it's such a good story. It's also full of so much emotion and so much, there's so much that happens in this. It's a really good book. Okay, this last one is going to be the weirdest one. The Hunger Games. If you liked this, you may enjoy Rage of Dragons. I know. So for the Hunger Games, I probably should say Battle Royale or Red Rising, but those are two books that are constantly compared to the Hunger Games. I've done so myself, and I think that they're good. If you liked this, you might like this. I think it's a good one. But trying to not do the obvious choices here, I've picked Rage of Dragons. Why in the world have I done this? Well, Triss, that's not her name. Katniss, that's her name. Katniss is a lead that situations have happened to her, and she's made certain choices because of forces that are stronger than her that need to be broken down. And she's a very, very flawed protagonist. She's someone that's very jaded and guarded and makes really bad choices because of her trauma and because of being hardened by the world around her and hardened by the powers above her that are suppressing her. She's very single-minded. She's very intent on her goal. And her goal is about herself. Her goal is about protecting herself and her own people. Herself and her own. And because of that, she ends up being a fighter, and she ends up being really scrappy and willing to do what it takes. And she's very single-minded and sometimes makes bad choices because of that single-mindedness. I feel like her growth in the trilogy is very realistic in that it's not necessarily the most inspiring and an incredible arc of someone that I want to model my life after. It feels like I'm reading someone who's gone through a lot and this is their story. And I feel like we get a lot of that here as well. Also, the Hunger Games trilogy is very action-packed, and there's just so much action constantly, so many fights and so many things happening constantly. So anyway, I think you can see the comparisons if you've read Rage of Dragons. Tao is someone who has been the powers above him are abusing that power, and he has been affected by it on a very personal level, and now he has a very single-minded goal. That goal for Tao is revenge, and he is joining the military ranks so that he can get closer to his enemies and enact his revenge. He's very jaded, he's very guarded, he's very intent on his goals, and sometimes he makes really dumb decisions because of that single-minded ambition of revenge. There's action constantly throughout this. It's a military fantasy. He is in battles a lot. And in both of these, the arcs that they have, which Tao as well has a very slow going arc. He's not just, this really jaded, guarded person who has this really beautiful, amazing arc. So far in the two books that I've read, it's a pretty realistic portrayal of someone who is in a spiral of hatred and anger. Rightfully so, like he's earned this hatred and anger, but regardless, it's tearing him down. And again, we have a more realistic than inspiring kind of arc. Though there's 2 more books left in the series, and I like to think that we're going to get a good mixture of both. I feel like by the end of book 2, we're already seeing the direction that his arc is going to go in, and I'm pretty excited to read more about it. Anyway, they're really different books, but if you liked one, you might like the other. There you go, those are some books that if you liked one, you might like the other. I intentionally did not choose the most popular adult fantasy ones. The obvious choices here are Gentleman Bastards, The Name of the Wind, anything Joe Abercrombie, anything Brandon Sanderson. These ones that I talk about a lot, I intentionally tried to leave them out of this so that you get some recommendations that you maybe don't hear all the time. But I'd also really love to do one of these where I take the most popular adult fantasy books or just fantasy books and say, if you liked this really popular fantasy book, here's some books that you might like from literally any other genre. Let me know if that sounds interesting to you. I'm not sure. It might be fun. We'll see. But anyway, there's some books. Hopefully you got some recommendations. All of them are linked in the description. Check out my Patreon if you feel like it. I'm there all the time. We hang out. We have a blast. I post videos every Tuesday through Friday. I'll see you again soon. Bye.